Hey there, it's Elizabeth, and welcome back to another brief installment of our homeschooling perspective. If you have not seen my previous vlog, it was an interview with my son about his perspective of homeschooling. So if you haven't had a chance to catch that, I'll link it below and you can go check it out. I'm just doing a very short series as a video response. I had some questions a few vlogs back about our homeschooling experience, so I thought it would be fun to come on and just do kind of an interview type thing with my children who have gone through homeschooling from beginning to end, and get their perspective on how they felt about their homeschooling experience, as well as sharing my homeschool experience from my perspective. I want to also point out that the opinions and experience are our own. I have nothing against public school and private school systems at all. I was a public school teacher. I have a degree in elementary education as well as early childhood education. So my responses to these questions and my kids' responses, they are all based on our own opinions and our own experience. So I just wanted to put that out there. Homeschooling is not for everyone, it's not I'm not trying to say that homeschooling is the way to go. Homeschooling is a very personal choice that should be made between, your significant other and based on your child's needs. So let's get started. The questions are, these are Homeschool Tag questions that I just found online, so that's what I'm going to use. The first question is, why are you homeschooling? There are a lot of reasons why we decided to homeschool. I mentioned them in a previous vlog, so I'll just briefly go over them again. Two of the main reasons why we decided to homeschool our children. One was because we felt that it was important for us to be able to choose what we taught our children and what they learned. So that was one of the reasons. Another reason is because you really are able to go at your own pace. So we really enjoyed that aspect of homeschooling, that if my children needed a challenge, they could go ahead and move on to the next book or the next level or whatever the case was. If they were having struggles in a certain subject matter, then we could take the time to really go over that so that they grasp the concept before moving on. A lot of times in schools, the kids don't get that chance. They're either not challenged enough or they don't get the time to kind of catch up and, if they're struggling. So those are the main reasons why we chose to homeschool. What do your children think of homeschooling? I think now that they're done with it, I think that they were happy with their experience. I think that they enjoyed their experience looking back on it now. So, yeah, I think they enjoyed it for the most part. Is your extended family supportive? Yes. My extended family was very supportive because, as you know, or if you don't know, my husband's sisters, some of his sisters were homeschooled either some of the way or all of the way. And so on my husband's side of the family, they, of course, were very supportive because, they were part of the homeschooling lifestyle. And the family on my side, at the very beginning, there were some that were not all that supportive, but in time they grew to be very supportive. So I think, at the beginning, if they weren't all that supportive, it was purely out of ignorance. They just didn't know anything about homeschooling, really. It was all new. And a new concept. So after they, really began to see the benefits of homeschooling, they became very supportive. And in fact, on my side of the family, some of my siblings have homeschooled or are still homeschooling their children today. And on my husband's side, some of his sisters either have homeschooled or are still homeschooling their children. And also, I believe his niece is homeschooling her children. And interestingly enough, I helped homeschool her back when she was like in first or second grade. So so that's interesting. And let me see. Were you homeschooled? No, I was not. I was not homeschooled, and neither was my husband. We were both products of the public school system. I think early on, my husband might have gone to private school when he was just itty bitty, but then he transferred over to the public school system. So, yeah, no, neither one of us were homeschooled. The best advice you've been given or have to give. I think the best advice that I had been given was, if it's broken, fix it. If it's broken, fix it. If you are working in a curriculum that is not working for your child, or needs to be changed, then change it immediately. Don't wait. Don't make your poor children suffer all year long in a curriculum that they do not like, because the goal is to get our children to enjoy learning. And yeah, we don't want to build resentment in our children. So if it is not working, if it's something that's not working, change it. That was probably the best advice I'd been given. The best advice that I have to give to those that are looking into homeschooling would definitely be, first and foremost, do your research. Do your research in the county, the state, the country, the city, wherever you are. Do your research on the laws of homeschooling in your area. I know in the United States, homeschooling is an option in every single state, to my knowledge. It is the laws and the regulations and requirements all differ from state to state. They differ from county to county. They differ from city to city. So it's important to know your responsibilities and the requirements that you have as far as homeschooling. Also, along those lines, get involved in a homeschooling support group. They will be your backbone to homeschooling, especially when there are members of that group that have gone ahead of you. They have experience. They have, perhaps obviously, they have older children who've gone through homeschooling previously. And you can glean so much information from those people that have just paved the way already. So it's important to do that. It's also important for your kids to get out. It's important for your kids to be around other children, to have activities to be involved in. So get involved. There are a lot of homeschool groups out there. Just simply type into Google homeschooling in your area, and I'm sure that there are support groups out there. And there are many different types. There are faith-based groups, there are secular groups, there are just a myriad groups of homeschoolers that get together and support one another. So that would be my advice to anyone looking to homeschool. Get involved. Let's see. Favorite thing about homeschooling? There were a lot of favorite things about homeschooling. First and foremost, I got to spend time with my kids all the time, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was, one of my favorite things about homeschooling. Another favorite thing about homeschooling was, I agree with my son in his response during our interview that his favorite thing was doing work in our pajamas. Yes. We could do schoolwork in our pajamas. And, we had a schedule that we stuck to, but it was also just a very flexible schedule. So that's another favorite thing about homeschooling for me, is that we didn't sit necessarily at desks to do our schoolwork. if we wanted to cuddle up in bed to do our schoolwork, we did that. If we wanted to do schoolwork on the floor, that's where we did it. If, the weather got cooler and we wanted to do schoolwork outside, we did it outside. I remember swinging in the hammock outside on cooler days, reading to the kids. Those are some of my favorite moments. Just the flexibility of it all. My husband used to go out of town for business quite often, and we would just pack up our school books and go with him. And so that was really nice, the flexibility of it all. Being able to go places on vacation, let's say, and not have to go at the busiest times of the year. We could go whenever we wanted to go. So that was always nice. Yeah, those were my favorite things about homeschooling. My most favorite was just the flexibility of it all. If we wanted to chuck schoolwork for that day and head off to the beach, we did. So we would just make up the schoolwork later at a later time. So yeah, I would have to say flexibility. My least favorite thing about homeschooling, was probably when, I would have to take off my mommy hat and put on my teacher hat. That was probably my least favorite thing to do, to be, the forceful teacher and, I guess, put my foot down on occasion. So it's hard, when you're at home all the time. You have competition with so many different things. You have competition with the comfy cozy bed your kids are sleeping in. You have competition with the TV, you have competition with video games, you have competition with the computer, so yeah, taking off that mom hat and putting on that administrative, teacher hat was probably my least favorite thing to do. Most annoying comment you've gotten. I'm itchy again today. I'm always itchy. The most annoying comment. I've never really received any annoying comments, quite honestly. I've always received positive comments, positive feedback about homeschooling. For the most part, if we had to go to the grocery store at 11 o'clock in the morning and my kids were with me and the cashier would say, oh, it must be, a day off school. And, of course we'd pipe up with, no, we're homeschooled. And I would always get a smile. And a, wow, that's so cool. Or, wow, good for you. That kind of thing. I never really had an annoying comment. However, one annoying comment that I heard quite often, not directed toward me, but just in general directed toward homeschooling, is socialization. And yeah, that was a huge, annoying comment that I heard going around when I first started homeschooling. I taught in the public school system. I taught second grade. I team taught, which means that there were two of us in one classroom. And we collectively taught 52 students. 52 students, okay, at one time. So, my question was always, where's the socialization going on in a school setting when, a child is in a classroom of 52 students that are all the same age, and they're being told to sit down, they're being told to be quiet, they're being told to follow directions, they're being told to listen up, that kind of thing. And where's the socialization in that? I don't know. I'm not really sure. So yeah, in our experience with homeschooling, my children got the experience of being around people of all ages. They were able to learn how to react and respond to adults. They were taught and had the experience of interacting with adults on a regular basis. They had experience in dealing with older children. They had experience in dealing with younger children. They had experience, just life experience in dealing with problem solving. They had experience in dealing with mean kids, because believe it or not, even in the homeschooling community, there are mean kids. So my kids were, exposed and had to learn how to deal with mean kids and bullying and all of that stuff that, you know, normal or school kids, public school and private school counterparts were exposed to. So, yeah, the whole idea of children not being socialized, how are they going to be socialized if they're taught at home? We don't live in a vacuum. We don't school in a vacuum. We get out. And if you saw my previous video, with my son, we did quite a lot. We were very involved. We were involved with park groups, with co-op groups, with nature park groups. We went on field trips all the time. We went to the theater. We saw plays. We saw operas. We went to art museums and science museums and all kinds of museums. And we were very active. So it really depends on the person, the parent who is homeschooling. You're as active as you want to be. In my case, I wanted my kids to be very active in different things. So, just because you're homeschooled doesn't mean that you don't see the outside world. If anything, I truly believe it's the opposite. I think that, my children, in our case, again, this is my opinion from our experience, my children got exposed to a lot of things and had possibly, in my opinion, more opportunities than their public and private school counterparts. So socialization was not an issue. That was a very long answer. Sorry. But it is annoying to me. It's annoying to me because homeschooling oftentimes has a negative connotation to it, and it seems to center around the subject of socialization. Okay, so there's that. One thing that has not worked for you. One thing that has not worked for me. I don't really know. I mean, it's not like everything was roses all the time. We had difficult times. At times, our experience was very rewarding and it was very positive for the most part. But, we did go through periods of time where, my kids dug in their heels and, I was on the phone with my husband crying, saying, look here, buddy, I'm putting him in school tomorrow. I'm done. So we did have our ups and downs, especially around the middle school years when that attitude starts kicking in and all of that. But it does help to have a good support system, whether it's through, of course, most importantly, with your spouse or significant other. To have the support of that person is of the utmost importance. And then also the support of fellow homeschoolers that can help you along. So I hope that answered that question. One thing that has worked for you. One of the things that we did that worked for us was actually grouping my kids kind of together in some of the subject matter. When they were younger, they did a lot of their work together. So we did it just as a group, and they worked at their own ability level, but they were studying the same topics, if that makes sense. And we did something, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, that's something that worked for me when they were a little bit younger. As they got older, it was helpful that they could each help each other out at times. They did do that sometimes. So that was probably something that did work for us. Let's see, hope that made sense. What is your homeschool style? And on here it talks about classical homeschooling or CM, which I'm assuming is Charlotte Mason. I'm not going to go into what those are, the different styles of homeschooling. However, my style of homeschooling, our style of homeschooling, was more eclectic. We we just picked and grabbed from all different areas. I, got information from fellow homeschoolers that had already gone through the process or were going through it as well, and got ideas on what curriculum worked for them, what didn't work for them. Some of the curricula that worked for them didn't work for us, and vice versa. So it just really all depended on how my kids learned, their learning styles, that sort of thing. So we did a lot of different things in our homeschooling years. Whatever worked. We just did whatever worked and whatever was fun. So we did a lot of hands-on activities. One of the things that I loved doing with my kids, and I really hope they enjoyed it too, was we used to do unit studies, and we would make lap books out of file folders. And I just love doing that. Lap books are it's like a glorified pop-up book. So we had that, and I have a whole box of my kids' lap books through the years, and we just really had a lot of fun doing it, and it really helped them to retain the information. So if you want to see any of the lap books, leave a comment below, and I'd be happy to share those with you. And then the last question is, does your spouse or partner help with homeschooling? My husband helps the most by supporting us. So yes, I would say he does help us in that respect. He was always there if the kids had questions, about a certain subject matter, a math equation, or they wanted him to edit, a writing paper or something like that. He was always there when we needed him, still is. And so that's the way that he helped with homeschooling. He didn't teach any classes to my kids, that was my job for the most part. But, he was there teaching life skills, and just being there and being supportive. So that was the biggest help. And so I've been rambling on way too long. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to pin my daughter down very soon so that you can get her perspective on her homeschooling experience. Thank you so much for all of your lovely comments and compliments on my son's interview. And we will return to regular scheduled programming after I get my daughter's input, and it should be fun. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And thanks so much for sharing your time with me, and I hope y'all are having a great day. Bye.